Soon if it wasn't.
Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay, can hear you loud and clear. Welcome back at the Buzzers on this Friday.
Welcome back to all buzzer beaters. Go ahead, Coach.
Last Friday of the month.
Last Friday of the month. Let me here. Last Friday of the month. Happy Friday, everyone. June 27th. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this session is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we could take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. Been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023, trading for the past 13 years and in the futures markets for the past 6, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experience, some knowledge, and hopefully assist you in becoming a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. You are all our chat, our audience. Let us know how you did today to end the week. Were you up on the week, down on the week, anything from this week? Maybe you stayed flat and did not trade at all. Hard to believe that one, but let us know how your week ended up. And we will get into it. We'll talk about a couple different markets. We'll pull up the Trader Hub. We did have some planned news out this morning. We had a PCE number come out. PCE price index year over year came in at 2.3%. Forecast was 2.3%. Previous was 2.1%. U.S. consumer spending month over month came in at negative 0.1%. Forecast was negative 0.1. Previous was positive 0.2. We had Canadian GDP number come out. We also had the Michigan sentiment number come out at 60.7. Forecast was 60.5. And we had some tariff news. We've been talking about not getting much as far as trade deal tariff news. We heard from the president, which was confirmed by China as well, that they have come to a deal. I think that's what the economic world has kind of been waiting on, what happens between the US and China. We know that July 9th was that tariff deadline date. But then we also heard that we're not making any deals with Canada. Coach Paul, anything you got on the news?
Just that the biggest one was the announcement that all talks have stopped with Canada.
Yep.
I know that directly because I was long the Canadian dollar. But we're back to the T word in this whirlwind of chaos every day, which I can't say it enough. You put your stop in as soon as you enter the order, or use the bracketing, because we saw it today at some random news, and you have a big move, and that was the big news of the day. Did like a Michigan sentiment really was positive and sent the market up.
Yep.
We've been seeing it. The Michigan sentiment has made some movement consistently. But other than that, we're back to tariffs.
Tariffs are back on the table, or maybe off the table if we're making deals with China. Let's hope it stays that way. Let's take a look at the markets. We got 35 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts. And today, to the downside, we had silver down 2.1%, heating oil down 2.55%, and platinum, our biggest percentage mover, to the downside at 4.5%. Have we seen the top in the platinum market? That is a pretty big engulfing day that we see there. Almost took out a day and a half of range. High to low on the range in platinum was 7.6%. I did catch some of this short last night, which was a pretty good trade. We can maybe talk about that one a little bit later. To the upside, we had the Nikkei up 1.96%, live cattle up 2.1%, and natural gas, our biggest percentage mover, to the upside at 6.2%. 0.07%. To talk about our big four, we had crude oil down 0.2%, the S&P up 0.4%, gold down 1.84%, and the NASDAQ up 0.3% to round out our big four. I'm going to pull up a NASDAQ chart up here, Coach Paul. We are at the end of the week, so why don't we pull up a weekly chart? What are we looking at here?
A great week rally, onward and upward, but we finished near the highs of the week, near all-time highs. Technically, this is well positioned to continue. When I say well positioned, it has a high probability of continuing. That's the way I see it. And if we do settle above at all-time highs, we could really begin to pick up pace to the upside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the strongest weeks we've seen in a long time, in about since May, since middle of May. Pretty bullish week there. We didn't take out the all-time high. It looked like we were going to. I almost doubled down with my bet with Dakota, but I would have lost again. I guess you just keep betting until you win, right? And just keep doubling the
Yeah,
bet until you win
yeah,
one.
that works for you.
Right. Yeah, if we had high of the week, high of the day, 22,825 half in the Nasdaq. The all-time high on this futures contract, 22,869. We are seeing cash market make all-time highs, but not in the futures as of yet. Let's go down to a shorter time frame. Let's take a look at a half an hour. Pretty interesting day. Starting last night, we on the half hour, Coach Paul, we were above the 200 moving average. We were above the 20 moving average on the 30-minute, and a decent rally last night.
Yeah, it was bought early after yesterday's positive close. And interesting. Look what we did. We came right back to the bottom of that opening range. And how many times we've seen this where there's down movement and VWAP stays inside the range. When we stayed in that range until what was it? London opened up.
We stayed in that range until London. Yep, here's a London open here.
Once again, and we talked about this yesterday, finding VWAP as support. But also into that, we were higher, like 40 points in the S&P when U.S. Open came in front of a number.
Right.
If you haven't done it before and you see that kind of a gap, use the day only. It's going to help. You see that without that noise from overnight. But either way, let's go back to the 3-minute and watch that opening. And I'm going to hand this off to you because this is the trade you've shown me when we first started.
Yes, it is. And Richard, if you're looking at trading view charts and it's showing you that the markets have made an all-time high, you're most likely looking at a back-adjusted chart. Those charts account for rollover and the adjustments there. So yeah, if you look at trading view charts on the bottom right next to your clock, there's an option to change it from back-adjusted to not back-adjusted, and you'll see the prices change. But we got to remember we're trading the September contracts. If you're trading futures, if you're trading cash, you already had an all-time high. But if you're trading futures, the September contract, which is the front month, has not hit that all-time high as of yet. But here we go with the 3-minute opening range, like Coach Paul was talking about. We did have Michigan sentiment out. I was driving fast markets this morning, and we said we were going to wait for Michigan sentiment. And I asked the question, Coach Paul, does it? We don't want to trade during the number. But we had a pretty clean setup, pretty clean long setup, where we had that 3-minute opening range. We had price close outside of it. Volume didn't necessarily go right away, but it was tilting to the upside. Maybe gave you an opportunity for maybe a B minus trade setup. It wasn't A plus. If that volume was leaving, it would have been A plus. But uh, really nice rally into that Michigan sentiment number. And by the time we got to the Michigan sentiment print, we were 50 points up from the high of that opening range, which could have been your day, right? With a one lot mini, it's $1,000 before the number even comes out. You don't even need to know what the number did. You could lock it up and go outside for the day. But really nice opening range breakout. And once we got Michigan sentiment, had a little bit more of a push, and that was kind of it for the day. What do you think about that, Coach Paul? Trading
Well,
into a number prior to a number a
I,
half hour before it comes out.
this isn't FOMC. This isn't I'll call it one of the top three numbers. Well, Michigan sentiment, it creates some movement. This trade was the opening range breakout. News or no news, that's the opportunity. Like you said, it was like a B plus opportunity.
Yep,
I took this trade. I don't want.
it's a great trade.
And then when VWAP left the range, I took another. I did because I accepted the risk. Key point here is accepted the risk. I knew that it was coming out. I didn't no, actually I don't follow it that closely because in my decision making, this is the opportunity at this point. I was aware there was another number, but there was a number that was positive before. But this specific trade is what I'm looking for, and there was some risk in it. I did the S&P; it was a little less risk, but it was a pretty big. It was a decent sized range. But what else did it? Now looking closely at this, what else did we see? We had a J trade on the opening immediately. So there
Yep,
was. It showed urgency. Um, in this case, they're selling off that made lows on the opening, and 2 bars later, we're breaking out of the highs.
yep.
I, I,
Closed
I'll take that
above.
trade.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's I mean, when you look at it that way, that is a beautiful setup. Whether this is the open, whether this is, a random high volume spike in the middle of the day, uh, closing above that was a decent spot to limit, assume risk, right? To assume
yeah,
risk, we don't know anything for sure is going to happen, but that's a pretty nice setup regardless of the time of the day.
yeah. So, but actually, what was the ATR? Let's see if we did the ATR and we look 2 to 1.
ATR at this point was 16 points, so your stop would have been 32. Well out of the way. If you waited for that close, if you wait for that close, let's say you get an entry up here, 32 points, got a 2 to 1.
Huh? That's the trade I want.
That's a beautiful trade. Shout out
So,
to Rico. Rico, one of our traders, has been on the show a couple times. I think he took this trade, and 15 minutes into the day was said, "Hey, you know what? I'm out. Gonna go take my kids to the pool." Uh, Is that's a pretty good day. You take that with one mini or whatever size fits your normal trading size. 64 points in a half an hour. That's a pretty good day. You caught a lot of the trade.
yeah. So and going back to discussion, yeah, I'm not talking hindsight. I took it in the S&P, but situational awareness. Yes, there's Michigan sentiment coming in, but I'm trading in the now. I have to make trading decisions now. I have to define a decision, and that this is. When someone's talking about a trading plan, this is a trading plan. Opening range breakout trades. Um, so nice to which was near the highs of the day. We went there 3 times. Um, but at that point, remember we were higher. We had that rally overnight. We had a correction, and these are all-time highs. I know it's not in the futures, but remember Futures are a derivative. They derive their value from something else. That being the cash index. The cash index is made new all-time highs.
Yep.
To me, that's an absolute. I don't. Um, but, but with that said, we're at all-time highs. We've been high for the day. Um, the insiders knew there was some kind of crazy message going to come, and so they
Hmm.
got short.
Yeah.
Oh, let me take my tin hat off. But
So I do want to talk about that a little bit because while we were on fast markets, Hogue was reading Delta. Again, Delta is just simple terms, the difference in volume between market order buys and market order sells. As we were pushing up during fast markets, Hogue was watching the delta in the S&P and it was increasingly negative. What does that mean? There were more market order sells than buys. Price was going up. Hogue did mention that you don't normally see a squeeze this early in the day, um, but we kept seeing sellers coming in, sellers coming in. Eventually, they, like you said, Coach Paul, maybe somebody knew something was coming out, but they were selling up there for a reason. Now, whether they're selling to open or selling to close a position, we don't know. But we didn't really see any aggressive buying up at these highs. And then eventually, you know, headline comes out and we see a quick 200-point drop in the NASDAQ.
yeah, well, that is suspicious.
Yeah.
And good call by Hogue. And because whether it was profit taking, but keyword you said, and Hogue said it, is it was early in the day.
Hmm.
Taking profits early in the day.
Right before 40 points before an all-time high. Yeah, it's weird.
But so let's say there wasn't news, and you see that kind of negative delta as we go higher, it gives you some information. It might not be a part of your process, but to understand that, to go, okay, I know this is happening. It's vulnerable. It's it. So when is it that it becomes important? So we make a high of the day.
Hmm.
Well, I've done this. We've talked about this before. Every time it makes a high of the day on that candle, put a VWAP.
Yep.
I mean, really, every time it makes a new high, put a VWAP and see where it fails. So all the way, you could do that because why I say that is at what point is the buying failed, and now we find that sellers are in control, and there it was, and we didn't make a new high at the first time it closed underneath. It's another way of measuring the volume. So we know that there's negative volume, negative delta. Um, Very interesting. I would do that because when does that buying fail? That buying is really what this break was all about. I mean, I don't know how many big unless you got out. I actually took profit on a 2-to-1. It was also the second on my numbers, the second level of resistance.
Okay.
Here's another. It's Friday. We're
It's
at the
Friday.
weekly highs, at all-time highs, daily highs. We have negative delta. These are things that they're like in weather. They're clouds. Um, so be aware. At one time, you can say, you know what, I don't like. I can just. You don't have to just get out if you're long, or if you can start determining I'm under a certain level here. I'm done. If you're looking to sell it, find out where the last buyer came in. That's kind of what that system is, where you just put that VWAP every time.
Yeah. They'll flatten out eventually, and you'll kind of see it. And it was range bound, pretty range bound. I did end up taking a long up near up near 807. Needed a pullback, and I think I said it when I took the trade. So I ended up scaling into this and taking 2 lots off of VWAP because in these grind up markets, if we're going to continue going up, I don't want to buy the high because, like you said, Coach Paul, eventually there's going to be a final buyer on these markets, and when there is, they're the ones that help us move to the downside pretty quick. So shout out to Dakota, caught some nice shorts during fast markets. I think the patience and trading with a stop that made sense for the market kept me in this trade. But we kind of just ran out of steam before that all time high. Pretty nice bounce right back up to VWAP to close for the day. This looks extremely bullish to me. Uh, it looked like we were going to sell off. Hey, we're not making a deal with Canada. Actually, nobody cares. And we're right back up.
Right.
Somebody cares. Somebody cares. But the Nasdaq didn't care. We bounced right back up. Anything else you got on the equities, Coach Paul? Look at the S&P. It was very similar. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to look at him and our friend Rusty. S&Ps were the same thing. So,
S&P's same thing. Let's take a look at the Russell on a daily. So we were looking at that 200 moving average on the daily. What are we looking at here, Coach Paul?
was that the high today again?
Pretty
What
close
is-
to it. We didn't get it exactly. 22.70 is the 200 moving average. High of the day was 22.10.30.
Okay, we're not making all-time highs. We haven't broken the moving average, although we're grinding higher. I still find this suspect. I that the broader market is not participating in this rally.
Right. It's just like you said yesterday, a couple of names that are leading us higher.
So it keeps my spider senses on edge here about the overall market. But look at that; it really didn't do much. It didn't react
No,
on the news.
pretty indecisive day
So,
right there.
all right, Courtney says she got a nice chunk out of the YM today. Let's take a quick.
Very similar here.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a nice looking chart right there. Looks cleaner than the Nasdaq. Yeah, much cleaner. Nice trading, Courtney.
Yeah.
Damn, look at the Dow. Look at the Dow. Doesn't get a lot of love, but this is a clean chart.
Yeah.
Trading, Courtney. Got a question from Vic G. Can you explain negative delta? Yeah. So the delta numbers and different from options delta, right? We are strictly talking about volume. And when you hear Hogue talk about delta, he's talking about the difference between market order buys and market order sells. So if delta is 0, it's flat for the day. And me and Coach Paul are the only two traders in a market, and I market buy 10 contracts. Delta is now positive 10. Coach Paul then comes in and market sells 3 contracts. 10 minus 3 is 7. So delta is positive 7, right? And that's just the delta calculation from there. Uh, that information alone is probably not enough to take a trade off of. And what we're looking at is how effective is that delta at moving price. If I market buy 10 contracts and price doesn't move higher, there's pressure on me as a buyer to hold on to that position if it's not going in my favor, right? If Coach Paul then market sells 3 contracts and we drop 10 points, now there's pressure on me as a buyer. So what we're reading is who's more effective? Is it buyers or sellers? And how efficient are they moving price? Today we had the negative delta at the highs in the S&P. Initially, it looked like they were underwater. They were in trouble, right? Price was going higher where that delta was growing. So more market order sells. But then there was a point where the market stopped moving higher, right? And that delta continued to grow. And then we see the sell off that we had. So I think it's important to put all that information together. But that is what we were looking for with that negative delta.
Yeah, and further, one more comment on that. I don't like the word delta for this. Well, first of all, come from decades of option experience. It's kind of misleading. It's change. Um, think of it as an imbalance between buyers and sellers. So once you start, if you can get that in your mind, you're looking at it as okay. In this case, the buyers were in control, but there was selling that wasn't leaving. An imbalance is selling. I think if we looked at the day, yesterday, in contrast, I have a chart of that I can't show you. It's on CQG where they measure it, and there was nothing but a positive delta all day. So what was suspect is the negative delta from the opening through. That's not a healthy. That's not healthy. Um, or to be a better word, it's vulnerable, and we saw that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's interesting.
Let's Jay, you're talking to Mr. Market, not us. Yeah, Jay, it's all good. I've been trying to decipher what your messages are saying, but it's all good. Use the chat as your journal if you see fit. Got some questions for us? Let us know. Let's take a look at gold here. Gold was, I believe, one of our biggest percentage movers to the downside. It was in the top three, down 1.86% on the day. Let's take a look at the opening gold last night. Coach Paul, I know you said you were in this trade. I took it in platinum. What were you seeing here? Uh,
Well, we're under the 200 on a half hour. We were under the 50 and the 20 as we've been talking. This market has been heavy. We've been saying this for what, 6 weeks? But we're getting this type of action. And going in the last night, we had urgency for the first time that I can remember. So if we look at first half an hour, a small range, but we broke out of that range immediately. There was
yeah, there
nothing
was no waiting
underneath
around.
it. So when we think of, and we're talking about delta or imbalance, immediately there was some seller in there. They couldn't, in volume wise, couldn't find a buyer. So they went to sell some more, and it went lower. This is classic urgency trade. This one made my day.
So I
Um,
mean, it can make your month, right? This was
you
a man. What a
know,
trade.
that was, so now once again, if we remove the candle, and we just see, I mean, well, I like that's clean. I can see that. But right off the bat, you see it even cleaner. VWAP selling, no responsive buying. Like I think of it this way: this isn't a market maker selling, right? It has to be an entity. So they goes like you could talk. I sell J50. He buys them. Now he doesn't know I have 1,000 more to sell. So then I asked Jay, where's your bid now? I'll sell you 100. Now he's got 150 and he turns around to the rest of the at the buzzers and they all go, I don't want any.
Yeah.
Or you get to sell 3. And now you've got 147 left, right? There's urgency. And what do? You're looking for bids. And I come in again and sell another 100. That's what, and this continues till you've had enough of me. So you sell before you buy. I mean, you basically have to take. So market makers are going to go. That's we're not buying anything. Before I can sell more, they sell more,
Right.
and it feeds upon itself, and that's reflected in VWAP
Yeah,
because there was
which pushed
VWAP
lower
never
the
went.
entire. Never
Yeah,
went sideways. Never went sideways until the end of the day. We did get that reversal, high volume at the low of the day, and close above it. But from that point, it was range bound. Right, we stayed in the 10-point range, and then VWAP flattened out. But for this entire trend lower, yeah, that was a pretty steep angle, uh, and they were selling any price they could take.
yeah. So we've been kind of anticipating something like this. We go back to the daily, and under that 50, we didn't find it. Now the next one is that 20 crosses over. We could go eventually go down to the 200.
200 moving average is at 29.9870. Gold currently trading 32.86. This 50 moving average Coach Paul was talking about on the 24th, which was Tuesday, was the first daily close we had under that 50-day moving average pretty much all year, right? Since this trend has started, this is the first close, and we're seeing some significant price action under it now as the equity markets are rallying. I do want to check that correlation matrix. Maybe I'll do that this weekend to see if over the last 30 days we're seeing gold and the equities be more maybe inversely correlated, where equities are rallying, gold may be selling off. I think we're
Yeah,
kind of seeing it in the charts, but uh, I want to see if that's actually a correlation that's happening here. Really nice
there's
sell. Go ahead.
another thing on that gold. Look at the 50-day moving average. It's flattening. It's not moving lower.
Yep. Yeah, it moved. If you look at it yesterday, the value was 33.5290. Today, it's at 33.5120. So
So it's
it
going
is
lower.
moving lower. It is moving lower.
It's
Correct.
so we think it could have peaked because we haven't seen that in a year.
No, we
Oh,
haven't.
look at it. Someone said that's a nice trend there.
Yeah, no, we have not seen that
Um,
50 moving average turn really at all uh, on the
so
daily.
uh, yeah, I'm kind of getting bearish there.
Yeah, for good reason.
So
For good reason. It was a good trade.
all right, we you want to go
Real
to
quick,
your
I want to take a look at
platinum?
platinum. And this is a market that we've been talking about pushing up, pushing higher, presenting opportunity to the upside, but also uncharacteristically doing making this run, right? We have not seen platinum do this in years. And eventually, when things like this happen, similar to what we had in copper, there is going to be, shouldn't say is because there are no guarantees, but I would assume that there's going to be a reversion of some of this move. And that's exactly what we got in platinum today. High to low, 7% move to the downside. Uh, and just a really nice sell last night. Very similar trade to gold, right? We made the
Very
highs
close.
pretty much on the open, first 30 minutes. And once that VWAP left the range, very, very similar trade to gold here. This huge spike of volume, which has the potential, and we've seen this have the potential to be that reversal pattern. The difference is here, we never even closed above 50% of that high volume candle. Coach Paul, they were selling with intention to get the hell out of this trade, whether it was profit taking from the crazy rally that we've had, some shorts coming in. Either way, uh, they said sell everything. And caught a nice piece of this
Mhm.
trend. Didn't catch the whole trade. Didn't need to catch the whole trade. But this was a pretty good short in platinum. So now where we are on the 30-minute is back at that 200 moving average, that white line. Sold right to it, settled right at it. And we will see. We will see what that means for platinum going into next week. But it's a market that is presenting a ton of opportunity, wide ranges, um, and not slow movement either. So the risk
Um,
is definitely has definitely increased here. Let's just take a look at the daily ATR. It's the highest we've seen it on these charts at all. Daily ATR in platinum is right around $60, and if or 60 points. and we can see last year it was in the 20s, so almost tripled.
$20
Yeah,
to
uh,
60. It tripled.
almost tripled. So be careful. There are no micro platinum that we can trade. Uh, so don't over leverage here. Definitely not.
With
JD, that's the
that,
trade. Go ahead.
Jane Ann, just to clarify, you said thought market makers just provided liquidity and they're not really directionally aggressive. So let me clarify that. What I was saying is market makers are not. They're not directionally aggressive. They're there to make markets. But when we were talking about delta or imbalance, the market maker, if let's say there's no resting orders, or there's a very small amount of resting orders, like retail traders, we used to call them one lot willies. There's not liquidity there. So a larger orders coming in, and they can't rely on a small trader. That's why you have a market maker. Now, what happened was, and maybe you missed the point, is what's happening now is the market makers making a market, and they can't get up because there's no one else. So if they take the order, they want to get out, right?
Yep.
They're not there for, it's exactly it. They're not there for direction. So they're looking, they get more than they thought, and they want to sell it because they don't make money on every trade. I think sometimes we have this idea that all those market makers make money on every trade. They don't. So what happens in this urgency is they can do two things: just start selling in front of the big selling order that they have identified, or they don't put a bid in until they
Yeah.
get a short. So then the entity that's selling it's stuck with the illiquidity at that moment. That's when things get exacerbated. So only the market makers like stop, don't put any bids in, or if they do, but they were 50 lot size, they're now 5 on the buy side, and they want to sell 100 on the sell side. And they're not going to offer or put a bid in until they can get short. I hope that clears that up. And when we see that, when we talk about these urgency trades,
Yep.
it usually comes off the opening. It usually doesn't come at
The
the
opening
end
or a
of the
headline.
middle of the day. Yeah, or a headline.
Yep.
And the headline's even worse because, well, not worse, it's much more chaotic
Mhm.
because that's why everybody's in flux.
Right.
But that's why we like these opening range trades. It gives us an idea how the larger participants are acting. And if you're in one market every day, it doesn't happen a lot, but it happens somewhere. But that's the
Almost every day.
description. That's how the market really works in the short term. When we hear people talking about looking at the book order flow, they're trying to determine that. Like you've heard, there's no bids in the Dom.
Yeah. Price can move real quick. Needs to or wants to come in and sell. It's what happened in crude oil earlier this week, right? You don't get this move in crude oil if there's balance in the markets. If there are bids, you don't. It just cannot happen that way, right? But there was a headline, something comes out, whatever it is, where more market participants want to sell than anyone is willing to step in and buy it. And we hear it sometimes where it's just like, well, for every buyer, there's a seller. There is, but there could be a lot of gaps in these markets, and that's why you see wide price ranges. And then you get here where I'm pulling up this crude oil chart because since we've had this sell off, the market has found balance and it really hasn't done anything. We're not even going to overanalyze this chart. We did have some news from OPEC Plus that said they were going to increase supply, so it could potentially push us lower. But this is balanced, right? No one is forced into a position. It looks like Coach Paul because the market's not going anywhere. Some of them might be forced, but they're not holding big size in this market. Could there be a retail trader who's trying to trade crude oil and getting stopped out potentially? But no one who has enough size to move this market directionally is underwater right now. And we've seen that happen at this price so many times in crude oil before, where we're not surprised that we're in balance. And we just sit here until the next time we get out of balance.
Yeah, and that's and someone had said here it's JT. It's the algo and the question mark.
Yeah, it
Here's
is.
where this is where vicious algos come in. They can, in their algo, they detect anywhere they have what I call a DNA of illiquidity. In the trading put, we call that an asshole. A guy who races you.
Yeah.
So if I'm filling for the customer, right, and the job of the liquidity, the locals was to take the other side of my orders and I give them an edge. Then someone comes in and sees that's happening and goes, I will use a better word. Says, okay, they understand it, they see what's happening, and so they just start offering every time you open your mouth, they say sell it at 7, sell it at 6. So now the public comes in and they can't find a bid. It's literally that's what happens.
Yep.
So the algo is a different animal than a market maker. The market maker is trying to have a good market maker is going to be there, but at one point they're going to go, I can't take anymore.
Right.
They've just got run over by the first order. The algo, the evil algo, or what do they call them? They have a name for them. Just is there to race.
Yeah.
And then that's how you get like these big, nasty candles. Hope
Absolutely.
that
Yeah, it makes sense, coach. It makes sense. The predator algo.
predator algo, yeah, they're
Uh
not there. So a market maker has an algo that shapes how much risk they're taking in the market, and they make money 90% of the time. But they take them with it. That's what a classic scalper. Some market makers, kind of a scalper. It's there to get an edge. They're not going. They're never going to let you out, right?
yeah,
They're there to get an edge. They're there to buy the bid and sell the offer.
placing
But
trades.
when they recognize they have an imbalance, they'll pull one side of it because they have, like I said, Jay. If I stuck you with the first trade, you
Hmm.
have to get out of it.
Right.
And then some algo comes in, and every time you go sell it at 7, they sell it at 5.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
that's a
Destroying my
predator.
position.
Yeah,
Destroying my position.
that's when you see stops get crushed.
Oh yeah.
And then that's when you get, like today, out of news.
The equities.
All right.
So we went through the big four. Again, not too much to talk about in crude oil. Pretty much in balance. We got about 15 minutes left. Coach Paul, anything else? Any other markets you want to discuss? Chat if you guys have any. We do have some questions here, actually. Let's get to some of these questions. Uh, Pull up a question from Psalm 91. Hey, coaches, was the pullback on Nasdaq considered orderly today? Uh, I would say so. I don't think it was. Yeah, I would say that that was a pretty orderly pullback. We got to a level of resistance right below that all-time high. We saw the buying slow down. Um, and then we got a headline, and that headline maybe expedited a move that was going to happen. But I'm not surprised to see a sell off where we were close to all time highs, could not get any favorable price action upwards. We saw the bigger buying stop, and all the weaker hand long traders need to get out. It's like, hey, this shit's not going anywhere. I'm going to sell it. And then we get a headline. And now, like we're saying, there are no longer any bids in this market and very quickly move to the downside. This didn't seem like like a panic liquidation or anything like that. It was, hey, price isn't going any higher. Let's sell it off. And then we see it almost immediately recover. So yeah, I would say that was a pretty orderly sell off. What about you, Coach Paul?
Yeah, it's within reason. That it gets so when we talk about orderly, that's reasonable. Wasn't pleasant if you're long. It was great
No,
if you're short.
absolutely.
But look at the volume. Um, this was the classic stops and off a tweet,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So this could be too is where predator algos come in. Is they know their stops, their market makers, people are panicking. It wasn't big volume, so it was pretty orderly.
Yeah.
I mean, first we had the buying stop, as we described earlier. Then we had the rally back up, couldn't take it out twice. Now, this is look at that from the second high before we start sloping down. Yeah, well, that was pretty orderly. It
Yeah.
got the headline. Oh boy. Okay, I'm gonna keep my tin hat off, but boy, that sells me right. That's suspicious to me. Um, but it created panic when the word came out that Canada was out.
Yep. But what we've
Um,
been seeing in these markets is buy the dip is the story. 22,600 low of the day in the Nasdaq, and we bounced up like nothing ever happened. Came right back to where that headline came out.
yep.
Close above this, we act like nothing ever happened until something else happens. Any other markets you want to talk about, Coach Paul?
Speaking
Uh,
of Canada, let's look at the Canadian dollar because I got a bad stop here and I understood why.
Canadian dollar. Let's take a look at it on the daily. We've been talking about the currency markets having a moment with the dollar weakness. What are we looking at here in the Canadian dollar, Coach Paul, on the daily, and then we'll
Uh,
go to a shorter time frame.
we're trending up. We've been above the 200. We have a big day yesterday. Now, oh, we have a possible J trade
Close
on a
above this
daily.
high.
Close above that high, and let's mark that down. That's um. So now I talked to you coming into Friday. I'm not talking about news coming into Friday. I wasn't looking for much, but I have a position on. So I had a stop underneath the 200 on a half hour. And when when we talk about there's I got filled about 8 ticks worse than my stop, which is about 4 handles. So we go to the half hour. That news came out. Okay, we just explained we have stops getting hit. We have new shorts coming in when that news came in, which this kind of looks like stocks.
Yeah, it does.
Hmm. Tin hat back on. Um, now, wow. And looking at this perspective, it's another perspective than that. There, that's where buying stop. Great trade, the great sell. Um, now, from my point of view, I'm with a position. I one on. I put a stop in it in the half hour, just underneath the 200, and that half hour, that you just saw that 3 minutes, that all happened in about 3 minutes.
Yeah, let's go down to a shorter time frame and take a look. Yeah, this was
Yeah, that
about
was.
6 minutes of selling, and
6 minutes of selling. There
and
is just
we're
what
back
we
above it.
described, and we're back above it. So I'm waiting till I'm gonna try. I'm still playing alongside. I still like this. This could be the dip to buy. It was panic selling. We have a huge J trade there. So here's the deal. I ended up it was a win. It was a winning trade. I ended up losing a bit, but I'd do it again. I don't because I don't know this is going to happen, but I can always get back in because I budgeted the loss. Maybe this is a good time. We're talking about risk management. I was really bullish Canadian. Man, that's just really good. I got to put 10 on.
Yeah, and
Who
then
could?
you're part of this liquidation move.
Yeah. So another thing, this starts cascading, right?
Yep.
At this time, this is when we talk market makers are not putting bids in. We would call it you have to hit what's there. Um, and there wasn't there. Now the algo comes in and starts racing everyone.
Right.
When that all stops, kind of defined as a J trade. We're back to balance, orderly market. I'm going to buy that Sunday night, most likely.
Nice. Like that.
So,
Courtney had a comment about the 4-hour charts, saying that we needed a pullback in the equities. If we look at the last, I think Courtney counted them out, 14 4-hour candles. They've all been up to the upside, and this is what we've been saying. And you look at this, you look at higher time frames. This many 4-hour candles in a row to the upside, and who said it? Billy. Those consecutive 4-hour green candles have me wondering what the f I've been doing the entire time. Uh, market's going up. This market's going up. We did have some nice sell opportunities today, but again, they're kind of few and far between. And when they happen, they're going to happen. They happen pretty quick. But even then, if you were selling this today, and let's say you were selling the entire way up, right? And you just like, I'm getting chopped up. I'm losing accounts. I'm blowing combines. My XFA is underwater. It's dead. And then you get this short. Like I fucking told them, I knew it was going to be a short. This market's up on way too much. Everyone's irrational. Great. I'm selling it. So you sell it here. Finally think you know you're Michael Burry. You got the big short. And then this market says, "Didn't you forget what I told you? This is buy the dip." Right? And we're right back to where we started. Shorts are see money, take money trades right now. It just is what it is in the equity markets. And this is a lot of money. This is a big trade here. If you were able to catch some of this, uh, don't say that word. I'm sorry. I won't say it again.
what word is that?
It starts with an F. Uh,
Ends with a U?
yeah. Uh, sorry, I won't say that again. Uh,
Potty
but
mouth.
but yeah, I mean, but seriously though, right? We can't hold on to a bias that strong, especially if it's one that's been chopping us up. If you've been trying to short this market the entire time up and getting chopped up, and you finally catch on to one, understand that that's one out of a very few great opportunities to catch a short. And look at how short lived it is. Right? So until market conditions change, and again, you can do whatever you want. Dakota shorted all day today and made money, made a decent amount of money as well. But he said any short that I take is a see money, take money trade. I'm not, he's not shorting this to say, oh, this market's up too much. It needs to go back to all time lows. Right? That type of strong bias, and sometimes venom. You hear Hogue talk about it, or getting chopped up on shorts could keep you uh, in a trade that eventually goes against you. Uh, all right, and let me answer a question now from Labid, who told me not to use that word. Hey, coach, my uncle says his strategy is that he waits for 200-point drops in the market, then immediately buys the first green candle. Is this a legit strategy? Any strategy is a legit strategy if risk is managed. Waiting specifically for 200-point drops, I wonder how many trades you may be taking. But if you look at today, we got a 200-point drop here. in the Nasdaq, buying the first green candle. And again, this is time frame specific. What candle am I looking for a green candle on? Is it a 1 second chart? Is it a 1 tick chart? But 200-point drop, green candle, buying this one, it would have worked out today. So is it a legit strategy? If those are the only criteria, again, I don't know how many trades are being taken, but yeah, it's buying a pullback. Buying a pullback, so it could work.
Now, yeah. Well, this 200. If it works and he's got success doing it, I can see that's called buy the dip.
Yep.
That's that's a little less than 1%, right?
200 points.
200 points is about
Yeah,
one.
let's measure it. 200 points is a little less than 1%. Yep.
Yeah. So buy the dip is 1%. I don't know that. But we're measuring from where? The high of the day?
Yeah.
Uh, That was the high of the day?
Here's high of the day.
All right.
200 points is right there. So you had
So, yeah, work.
it worked. What's your risk management, right? Because
What's
and
your
and
out?
how much size are you trading? Because we did have from the high of the day we had 200 points, but then there was another 25 points available. If I buy 100 lots because we pulled back 200 points, and I don't account for the extra 25 that the Nasdaq's going to run, is it a legit strategy, or did I just blow my account because I'm over leveraged going in too strong? It's a great idea. I love buying the pullbacks, but any strategy is legit as legit as your position size and your risk management.
Yeah, I like the idea. It's the executing of the trade and the risk management.
Right.
So, all right.
Hey, we got a
We
couple
have
minutes
one
here.
more.
Go ahead, coach.
We have a question from New Top.
New top.
Coaches, why can't I move above break even with Topstep? I get a payout, then blow some accounts and cycle continues. Um, you're getting payouts? Well, then you're really doing pretty good. I mean, you're doing better than most. Um, but the next part of that question, I blow some accounts and cycle continues. It could be a couple things, because trading, one of the things we always hear, we're always measuring markets, right? Looking at charts, but we have to also understand our own psychology and emotion. One of the most, you say you get payouts and then you blow out. One of the things to understand, and I went through this too, after my biggest year, and the next year I didn't give it all back, but I went into a tailspin
Hmm.
because I thought that I was too good to take losses, and I started reverting to bad habits because I became sloppy.
Okay.
I let trades go more than I should have. I didn't start using stops. I would cancel stops because it wasn't right yet. Because we get caught in this psychology is okay, when I'm up the top, I continue to do this. By the end of the year, I'm going to have $2 million. Except it doesn't work that way. We always have to plan, or in our planning is for drawdown. So go back, review what happens. After you get a payout, you're back in. Are you following the trading plan? Really?
Right.
Be honest with yourself. I know I didn't. Like, and it could be on your before your payouts, you were just on the right side of your trading plan, and this is the downside, and you're over leveraged. I don't know the specifics, but those are the things to really review. Anything else, Coach?
I would say the only thing I would add to that is, again, congrats on taking payouts. Have a plan for your payouts. This is just going to be my opinion here. MP has said it as well. But what we do here with Top Step accounts is a job, right? It's not a it's a job, and I think your intention should be you make money at your job to go do something else with it. I think if anyone is looking at day trading as like a retirement vehicle or something like that, kind of tough to do. So have a plan for the money that you make here, and zoom out. If you're getting to a payout, you're doing something right. Right. A lot of times we hear traders get to an XFA and they blow it in 2 days because they can't figure it out. Um, if you're getting to a payout, you are at least trading an account for 5 days, so you know how to sustain one. But have a longer term plan for it, for how you're going to pull money out of the markets and then go do something else with it. If your goal is just to build an account value, um, you know, I don't think that's a solid enough plan. Uh, so good job. If you get into the cycle where you start cycling combines, maybe uh, take that option away from yourself, right? If you buy one account a month, that's it, right? And you know, part of our job here is to coach traders at Topstep, and we see on social media sometimes they're just like, oh, these guys, they're coaches. How can they tell people? I don't know that there's another affiliate in the space that is going to tell you to stop buying accounts. I'm telling you right now to stop buying accounts. Don't buy another one. And MP's probably, if he watches this or if he hears this or if you want to clip it up on Twitter and share it to him, I think he's going to agree with the message. If you can't sustain an account, do not buy another one until you figure out how to do it. Um, because it's not going to help you at the end of the day, and ultimately not going to help Topstep. Topstep makes great money off of traders who are in live accounts and taking a percentage off of you doing that. We'd much rather you do that than to keep cycling accounts. So, whatever you did to get your payout, it worked really well. You sound like you have a game plan. Just zoom out and think higher time frame. That's all I got.
That's great advice. And remember, one last thing someone put here: the market, Claude. We see more ourselves in the market in the charts. Great quote. Someone once told me the market is a mirror of our emotions. So
Yep.
go back. And by the way, this is part of the process. Like you said, if the great thing about a prop trading firm like Topstep is you get to learn on a low scale of risk. Because believe me,
Yep.
I've done it. Everyone coached. I mean, Michael Patak says it all the time. He lost $100,000 before
Yeah.
he started getting it right of his own money.
Yep.
So struggle, another word is struggle well. Review this weekend. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend, everybody. With all the work that we do here, it's important to take some time off the charts to enjoy life off of the charts. Uh, Anne Marie and Mohammed will be doing the opening call. We do have Coach Hoop doing his class in Discord in about 10 minutes. But for the opening market kickoff, Anne Marie and Mohammed, we will talk to you all next week. Have a great weekend. Thanks, Coach. Thank you, Andrew, as always,
Thank
for helping
you.
us run this as well.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.